Hey guys, I hope that you're all good. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about staying warm whilst looking stylish. I actually had quite a few requests for this video and I'm so excited to film it because I think that I have a really good few tips in here which are a little bit different. I'm going to talk through 10 of my tips / hacks for staying warm throughout the video, whilst also going through the three main structures, which are the base layer, the mid layer and the outerwear layer. So I'm going to be referring back to them throughout, and I think also I'm going to try and include some full outfits so that you get an idea on how I kind of style them and put them all together as well. So let's get straight on into it. Tip number one is one that you're all going to know about, and it's really working on that base layer. So keeping the core of your body warm. So really for a base layer, you're looking for something that's quite tight to the body, not too tight fitted that it's uncomfortable, but you're wanting to keep the heat in. So I've chosen a selection. I absolutely love thermals. I pretty much wear them throughout the whole of the winter, top and bottom, and I'm not really fussy with which company. I'm just going to add here, I haven't gone for any which are merino wool because I find them too hot. This video is more on styling a kind of everyday city look. Obviously keeping warm for the snow. If you're actually out skiing, I would have merino wool, like a full merino wool under base layer, but for every day these are the ones that I use. So I've got some leggings from Uniqlo. These are their Heat Tech range. To be honest, I'm not really sure why they call it Heat Tech because I'm certain all of the components in all of these are pretty much the same, but I do love them. They're really soft, really comfortable, quite stretchy. I've got those in grey because I thought that would go with everything. Also from Uniqlo, you've got to get a nude thermal. It's perfect, especially putting under sheer stuff, which I'm going to talk about later. And I liked this one because it had a scoop neck for anything that you're wearing a little bit lower. And then I've got one here, which I just thought I'd show you, which is a roll neck. These are perfect for putting under a polo neck or also kind of styling on their own. I styled it with this jumper, which I will show you in a picture. And I just thought that it looked really nice and it was so warm. This is actually probably the softest. This is one from John Lewis. And then I also have one from Marks. These are probably my favorite for if you know that you're going to be in and out a lot, perhaps in a coffee shop, and you're going to be getting really warm and you need to be stripping right down to that base layer. You could wear this one on its own. I think that's quite important when you're thinking about bases. Obviously I wouldn't strip right down to my thermals, but with this one I could take my jumper off and my coat off if I was getting exceedingly hot, whereas I probably wouldn't with these two because they're a little bit thinner and they just don't quite look right on their own. I definitely recommend also just getting a few thermals in different colours because obviously it's nice to have a little bit of a selection to go with a few, but if you're just wanting to invest in one, definitely go for a nude colour because you know that it will go underneath everything. My second tip is one that I think so many people overlook, and that's investing in a really good pair of socks. Obviously you lose most of your heat through your extremities, and especially on the floor the ground can be quite cold, and if you're stood, really invest in a good pair of socks. So I've included two nude here which have been really revolutionary for me this year especially. The trend has been to have kind of baggier jeans or trousers and then your boot with a little bit of a gap so that you see your ankle. Well, if you put these on, nobody knows that you're wearing socks and you are still keeping warm and you can still keep up with that trend. It's a tip that I use all of the time and it works really well. People often ask me when I have them on, like, oh, aren't your ankles cold? And I'm like, have socks on, they're keeping really warm. These were quite expensive for a pair of socks. I will link them below. I believe that not sure what the components were, I'm guessing they might have been merino wool, but they do keep me super warm considering that they're like quite thin and they fit under quite a few of my boots. Then I have another cheaper pair of kind of nudie socks. Obviously you've got to find some which really work well with your outfits but also your skin tone. And then of course a black pair of staple socks. These are looking what you may seem a little bit tatty. They definitely need to be rebubbled, but really that just means that they are good quality. They keep me so warm. They are actually double lined and I spent quite a while looking for a pair in kind of like walking shops and stuff like that weren't too thick, and I found these. If I can link them below, I got these a few years ago, I will, because they're perfect for the slimmer type boot, which is what you're wanting with these more styled items. Okay, so next I think structuring it through, we'll go on to the mid layer. So my tip number 3 is to really look at the materials in your mid layer. Obviously, if you're wanting to stay warm, then the natural wools are what's going to keep you warm with this layer. So I always choose nearly every year a cashmere knit that is quite slim. I've actually got a little bit, as you can see, some glitter on this one because I was wrapping in it the other day. This one is 100% cashmere. I'm a lover of cashmere and investing in some cashmere pieces. They just sit so beautifully in the wardrobe. They're really classic. You'll have them from year to year, and they keep you warm. If you're not one for wanting to like really bundle up and look too much like a marshmallow, then investing in a cashmere jumper is really, really worth it. Under this one, I definitely put on the nude thermal as a base, but yeah, definitely picking up something slim and cozy in cashmere is a big recommendation for the mid layer. Staying with the mid layers, I would also recommend a really chunky, comfortable knit. You don't have to go 100% wool with this one because you would probably be far too warm. I think this one's about 20-25% wool. I think it's got some mohair in it to keep it really soft. But if this was 100% wool, then honestly it would be far too hot for me, and I feel the cold, so you just don't need it, especially when you're going for a chunky knit. And this one is thick, it's got some real warmth in it. And then the last item for a top mid layer would have to be a roll neck, just keeping you really, really warm. I'm always surprised at how warm a polo neck roll neck keeps me compared to just a normal jumper. This one that I've got here is 100% merino wool and does keep me really warm, but also it kind of regulates my heat, so when I'm inside I can wear this one absolutely fine and it doesn't overheat me. So as far as mid layers on the bottom, it's quite hard to find anything particularly revolutionary. If you've got your leggings on as the base layer underneath, then usually I just go for jeans or whatever I want to. But I just wanted to pop into this video these cords because they are super warm. I've just been finding them much warmer than my jeans. They're also really comfortable because they've got a little bit of just like room to be able to fit the leggings under. So I would recommend trying some cords if you do get quite cold or you like wearing a coat which is kind of cropped to keep your bottom half warm. Right, so between the base layer and the mid layer, my tip number 4 would be layer, layer, layer. If you're not somebody who wears a lot of trousers and jumpers and you still want to be wearing pretty dresses like this one, which is a little bit sheer, then you definitely still can. I wore this one recently on a city trip and it was cold and it was so lovely and warm because I layered it. I had underneath a thermal top, and then I had my thermal leggings on underneath because this one actually has a lovely slip underneath it so you couldn't see any of it. I had nude on underneath this so you could barely see it. I then put socks over my leggings, some nice long ones, and then some long boots over the top of that. So my bottom half was definitely no colder than it usually would be. And on top, because of the kind of base layer that I had, it kept me really warm when I was just in this. But I made sure on this day with a coat, I actually wore it with a really big scarf, which I'll go into later, which kept my top half really warm too. So tip number 4, just get used to layering, playing with layers. You can pair a lovely gilet over the top of it before you put a coat on, and you'll be just as warm as you will be in all of these. Talking about gilets, my tip number 5 is to have a gilet. I'd say puffer, but I also have a fair one. I'll insert a picture of me wearing it here, but I don't feel it's as practical. I was really trying to think about, this is more of like a staple wardrobe. Perhaps if you're packing to go on a cold city break, this is all of the things that you take, and this is why I would include a puffer gilet, because these are amazing for folding down. I don't use mine as a styling item so much, but my boyfriend was actually the person who introduced me to these. He wears them with really smart jackets and it just looks amazing actually as a style, but I wear them more so just if I get very, very cold on a day. So say we were out for a day, the sun was shining during the day and I was absolutely fine, I'd have one of these rolled up in the little bags that they come in inside my bag so that I can pop it on in the evening just to keep my core really warm. And they do work, they're perfect for packing in the suitcase or in a handbag, just as one of those like fail safe, I'm getting a bit cold, chuck something on and it will definitely warm you up. Number 6 has to be long lined outerwear. Now outerwear, I'm not particularly fussy whether it's 100% wool, although I do have this coat here, which is one of my absolute favourites from this season. And this is, I believe, let me double check, I'm sure this one is 50% wool. So it's not 100%, I don't think that you need it 100%. I will try on this one with some of my outfits because I just think it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's really, really long in length and it's just really snuggly. You can put the collar up, it's quite heavy, and that's the one thing with having wool coats. And also all of them are lined beautifully, and that's one thing that I would really look for when you're looking for a really nice warm coat, is something that is beautifully lined inside. So a real must for looking for a coat is to have it kind of, I'd say, below the knee, have at least 50% wool in it. This is if you're looking for something really warm, and a collar that you can pop up and lined inside. So they're my 4 kind of things for a coat. If you're not so keen on coats which are wool and slightly heavy, then I always go for this jacket. Is one of my most used jackets. That's 100% merino wool. It's super warm, but it's a perfect layering piece. I wear this all year round. Probably not in the summer so much, but definitely in the spring, autumn months, it's perfect. And then when it starts getting colder, I wear this one under my coats, which aren't wool. So like this one here, I can pair it under and it just keeps me super, super toasty. So just a little jacket for layering would be perfect. Of course, I had to chuck in a teddy coat. This one here keeps me unbelievably warm. I've actually broken that little hook on it because I've been wearing it so much and taking it on and off all of the time. But really, really beautiful, keeps me so, so warm. And then just a classic coat which fits really nicely. It's something that's not too baggy, so you're not letting any airflow through. Something you can do up at the front would be absolutely perfect for keeping you warm. I don't think you can go wrong with coats as long as you're looking for something that's, as I said at the beginning, long, below the knee, lined, and trying to look for something that has some good materials in it too. Tip number 7, and I feel like one that you guys may not think about, is hand warmers. Now obviously they seem a little bit extreme, but having something that is warm on your body makes an insane amount of difference. When I have my hand warmers, I am toasty. I feel like I could go out in the winter with just a sheer dress and a small coat on and I would still be warm because of these. I've got 2 and I'm a little bit sad to be mentioning these because they're really not good for the environment and they're only one-time use. But I haven't been able to find anything that I can take on the aeroplane, so obviously this has flammable liquid with it. I'll go into these in a bit. So if you guys know, leave me a comment below because I'd love to get away from using these, but they're great if you're going on an aeroplane. They really work so, so well. 8 hours is absolutely true. I've tried and tested them. I pack them in my bag and get them out every day. I actually used them recently for a family trip and I gave them to girls at the beginning of the holiday and they were a bit like, oh, okay, thanks. But I don't think they were that sure about them. And by the end, every morning they were like, do you have some hand warmers left? Because I'd love some. So they do work and they do keep you warm, but I'd recommend getting a pair that are for more than just the one-time use, which are obviously these. I was terrified of these. My boyfriend actually introduced them to me and I was like, no, because you do actually put gas into them and light them, which seemed like, it just seemed a bit silly putting something that is a light in your pocket. But I read through loads of reviews online and I've used them now for years and they're amazing. And also Megan uses these. She was shaking somebody's hand and they asked how she kept them so warm and she said that she had heaters in her pocket, so if they're good enough for the royals, then they're good enough for us. So my tip number 8 would be cleverly think about your accessories. And what I mean by that, not just looking at the components, but also looking about how you wear and use them. So if you're going for a scarf, I would really recommend a wrap scarf. I know some people find these a little bit annoying because they're a bit chunky, but I personally love them. I picked this one up from Club Monaco a few years ago and I have worn it so much since. I can wrap it around loads of times to keep my neck really snuggly and warm. But also in January this year, we went to, or was it last year? We went to Paris and I was so cold that I was actually using it as much more of a shawl. Looks really elegant and lovely, but also it's just another layer that you can put right on top of that coat and it keeps you just so toasty. Really practical scarf. When you're looking at hats, again, there's nothing particularly revolutionary about hats apart from the components. Picked up this one this year, which is merino wool, and I absolutely love it. Got my 2 cashmere scarves, which I've talked about with you guys quite a few times. They're just really classic and simple, and that's another thing with choosing outfits and pieces for your winter wardrobe, is to go for things which are the same kind of colour tones so that all of your accessories mix with all of your coats and pieces that you're going to be wearing. You don't have to have it exactly the same, but just similar is really good. And for gloves, obviously you've got to go for a tech pair. That would be these here, something that I can use with my phone. And then I've also gone for a cashmere pair, just something really classic. I would like to find a bit of an in-between between these two, something I can use with my phone but also looks really nice. I haven't quite found those yet, so let me know if you know any. Please link them below because I'd be really interested in getting a pair. Number 9, we're going right down the feet now, and I would really recommend a pair of leather shoes. Something about leather that just keeps you much warmer, and ideally going for something long. This is a pair of classic kind of riding boots which I've had for years now. Not actually sure where I got them from. I think these are June. And these are beautiful because they're leather, but they're also lined. I don't know if you're going to be able to see there, but they have a bit of fleecy material inside which keeps them really warm. And because they're long, they also keep my leg warm, and there's no wind to get through in those. Number 10, my last tip would be some sheepskin liners. You can actually get shoe liners, but I just feel like these insoles were enough for me to keep me really toasty and warm. And they're also super comfortable. It's just nice. You use so much heat through your feet, and kind of being on a cold concrete ground, especially if you're stood for long periods of time, these will keep your feet really nice and warm, and that's so important in the winter months. Obviously, as you can see, these are quite new. They're not the ones that I wear. I didn't think I'd show you my tatty ones, but you have to wear them down a little bit so that they're comfortable in the shoe and they're not too tight. And that is all of my tips for keeping warm in the winter months. I really hope you enjoyed it and it gave you some ideas to keep a little bit more toasty when it's cold outside. Let me know if I've missed any off and you've got any really good recommendations, because I'm always up for keeping warm and trying new things. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please do subscribe if you are new and give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.